Alright, so today we're back with another Gaige build for the unofficial community patch, and this time we're going to be looking at a Deathtrap focused Gaige build, and we're going to be using the legendary Roboteer comm. Okay, so let's start with Ordered Chaos again. Um, don't really have a choice here, we got to get these skills to progress to Discord, but both of these skills are good, need Anarchy, and reload speed certainly doesn't hurt. Robot Rampage is really, really good for this melee Deathtrap build. Um, he can often just one-shot or kill multiple enemies in a cluster with the flurry. He does a ton of damage with it. Really good. And the gun damage, it does not hurt. And then we'll go max Bloodsoaked Shields for our survivability. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a good skill. Grab Discord. And then since Roboteer boosts this boosts the skill, we'll just go ahead and grab it. It's not amazing. You can skip this if you want, but getting 6 points for me is just high value. Deathtrap will move around the map a lot faster and get more kills and survive a little bit longer as a result, I think. Okay, so we'll come back to the middle tree. We're going to go ahead and do the green tree. Said this in my last video. Close enough, best for general mobbing and things of that sort. Cooking up trouble's good for like the peak, or if you really feel like you need extra survivability. It's really a playstyle preference. But we're going to take close enough. And then we're going to take Buck up again. Getting a boost to the shield capacity is really nice. And sometimes the restoration of the shield can come in really clutch in a bad situation, even if the AI is a little buggy. We're going to go better half again. Go ahead and max it. The fire rate is a great way to increase our DPS and also build more anarchy stacks when our mags half empty. Then we're going to take Upshot Robot, which is absolutely essential for this build. We need Deathtrap to be out as much as possible. Then we're going to max Unstoppable Force again. Survivability and mobility. Can't complain. And then Made of Sterner Stuff Max with the Roboteer comm is really good. 40% damage reduction for you and Deathtrap's very nice. And further boosting his melee damage, which makes sense for a build that is focused on buffing Deathtrap. Now, we're going to go 1 point here. We don't need to max it. It's a little redundant. We're already getting a ton of cooldown reduction from our Bone of the Ancient, 51%, and 31% from the Roboteer. More than 1 point is definitely redundant. So instead, we'll go ahead and start working on Potent as a Pony. Take Sharing as Caring. Obvious choice, shield capacity and recharge rate for you, and you give him your shield. Very nice. And oh yeah, and Potent as Pony, it's a pretty good skill. I wish it gave Deathtrap a little bit more max HP instead of you. I actually wish this was reversed. I don't think I really need the max health, but Deathtrap could definitely make more use of it. So it's still worth it though. Still pretty good. All right, now we're going to move on to the middle tree. This build is still like my elemental Gaige build. It's going to do very solid elemental damage. Like, you're not going to be useless and completely reliant on Deathtrap. You do need more anarchy for this build to really succeed. So if you want to move some more points around and get rational or rational anarchist and typecast iconoclast, that's totally fine. It's definitely a slow starter, as you'll see in the gameplay later. But as I build up more anarchy, it becomes quite strong still. So we'll take more pep. Myelin again, can't complain about shield capacity, shock resistance, and elemental application boost. And then for this build, we get a boost to Strength of 5 Gorillas. We're going to go ahead and max it because we're trying to make Deathtrap as strong as possible. And we also get a nice gun damage boost. Reload speed is really nice, and the little Shock Nova does good damage. Going to max Electrical Burn and Evil Enchantress again. Again, just trying to get this elemental damage and chance as high as we can get it. So that also means we're going to take Wires Don't Talk, because we're still going to be using a lot of shock weapons. And then, of course, make it sparkle. Okay, so now we have 4 points left. I think this is really up to you. You can go more Anarchy if you want. Maybe you can finish out Annoyed Android. Wouldn't recommend that. I think it's a little redundant. But in my case, I think we're just going to take Potent as a Pony. Go ahead and max it. Get max health for you in Deathtrap. Not bad. And then we have 1 point left over. Again, this is just preference. So I think since we'll just go ahead and take 1-2 boom. since it gives us a nice little explosive damage buff, and it also does quite a bit of damage with the community patch, the little orb. So yeah, that's the build. And now let's move on to gear. So using the Florentine, Slaga, perfectly viable alternative. Slag slow hand is good. Grog if you're having issues surviving, those are all fine. Hail, another very good Gaige weapon. You get a lot of ricochet with close enough. It keeps you topped off since it's a Moxie weapon. Good damage. And the critical hit modifier doesn't hurt. Good fire rate. Great weapon. This is probably the best Gaige weapon. I love this weapon. It's very strong. Thunderball Fist. I'm just testing this weapon right now in the community patch. It's okay with this build. I think it's a lot better with my elemental Gaige build, but you can definitely still use it. You need high anarchy though, I would say. Twister, again, this is just amazing for enemies that get in your face or really tough enemies. It'll kill them very quickly. So yeah, and then I typically switch between the grounded Height of Terramorphous and the Blockade for this build. Um, I think the Height of Terror is a little greedy, and Deathtrap will die a little bit more often, but he'll do more damage. Um, Honestly, though, I think it's preference. I like the Blockade a little bit more because he gets so many buffs to his melee damage from the tree that the Height of Terror almost seems redundant, and I'd rather him survive longer because he's going to be dealing quite a bit of damage regardless of what shield he has. And then obviously, Roboteer Calm, melee damage and cooldown rate. Can't complain. Chain Lightning, again, this is just a classic grenade for Gaige. You can switch it up. Quasar will help Deathtrap mob a little bit better, keep enemies controlled. Stormfront, good for damage. Electric Chair, good for damage. Survivability and Slag Tool and Slag Tool, whatever you feel is best. And then, of course, the Shockbone of the Ancients, and we have the others in case we feel it is necessary. And here in the backpack, we have a bunch of other stuff. I think I'll scroll through a little bit slowly so you can see, but I think all of these are pretty viable Gaige weapons, and you can use any of them to a very high degree of effectiveness. It just comes down to preference. Except maybe the Seraphim. I'm testing this one right now, and I'll probably post a video of that. We'll see if it's any good with the community patch buffs. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. Zoom out so you can see, and we'll move on to the gameplay.
Kick him in the piston! Robot 1, ugly 0. Open that Discord!